Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Economic Tourism and Cultural Development meeting. Hope everybody had a good summer. We haven't met since last May, so it's our first opportunity back together. We're just waiting for His Worship to join us, so we need quorum to get started. So we'll call to order. Need an approval of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Tweel, seconded by Your Worship. Any declaration of conflict of interest? Seeing none. Approval of the minutes from the May 28th, 2024 meeting. Moved by His Worship, seconded by Councillor Tweel. Any business arising from the minutes? None? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Mr. Tweel.
It's regard to the market that once was held in Queen Street and then subsequently is moved to Confederation Landing. As you know, I moved a resolution for internally here, City Hall, more specifically the fire department, the chief, fire chief.
Councillor Tweel, what page are you on? Because I don't see market minutes.
It's in there.
Yeah, could you just tell us what page there, Councillor Tweel? I'm just looking for it. Atlantic Moose is here.
I don't see it in this
Okay, let's just
package.
bear with me.
Request Racket Club presentation.
Oh, thought I read it there.
Put it in as a notice.
Yeah, it's about Diverse City Farm Day, be encouraged to hold their events at Confederation Landing. It's all about that whole, you know, Farm Day, the market, all of those different events that were once held on Queen Street. So I'm using that as a segue as to where are we at with the resolution that was passed, where internally there's supposed to be a synopsis done by city staff to determine what the safety securities, what the issues were. We're supposed to a report come back to council, and I believe it was through this committee. I stand to be corrected, but as you can recall, Chair McKinnon, we had a joint meeting, Parks and Recreation and Economic Development and Tourism. Do you recall that when we had those meetings? And,
yeah.
and from that came the resolutions. So I guess what I'm looking for, do we have a progress report as to where city staff, that means Public Works, Police, Fire, and any other department that's associated with that review? I don't know if our manager can give us an indication one way or another. What I'm looking for is a progress report as to where that report is. It's been some time now since that resolution was passed. It was passed a number of months ago, and just looking for a progress report.
Mr. Chair, just in a point of order, if you look at the agenda, Councillor Twill, 2025 Downtown Farmers Market notification, will you be speaking to it then? Yeah. Let's wait till then. Yeah, no,
I understand that, but this is a separate issue because of the resolution was passed by council.
Yep.
So what I'd like is, can I get a progress report as to where that report is?
That resolution was passed at the joint committee meeting that you chaired, so I think that would come back to you, to your chair, Parks and Rec.
I'm not sure it's Parks and Rec that's leading that, to be honest with you. I think,
We'll look into
Anyway,
it.
well,
We'll move
can-
forward here, but
Yeah.
we'll look into it.
Could I just ask, Mr. Chair, again, just point of order, 2025 Downtown Farmers Market notification, we can talk about it all then, correct?
It's on C.
Manager?
It's at C.
Yeah? Okay. I'd just like to hear the presentation. I know these guys have to get going. That's why I'm asking to expedite what we're doing. Could I ask to move on?
so,
So Councillor Twill, we'll bring it up under 6C.
Okay, thank you.
So, all right, we'll just move on to reports and discussions for now. CADC tax incentive presentation by Wade Arsenault. So I'd ask Manager Wayne Long to introduce them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We do have representatives today with us from CADC and the Bio Alliance, who I'll turn the presentation to over in a moment. I just wanted to give some key points to the committee in advance of the presentation, and perhaps the gentleman will speak to them as well. So back in April of 2023, the city made an amendment to the current tax incentive strategy, which would allow for this particular project to advance and be to qualify for tax incentive funding. We received an application from CADC on July 20th, 2023, although there has been numerous conversations and back and forth prior to that time. We were in a span where there was staff transition as well as pandemic times as well, and that will likely come up as a part of today's discussion. At the last the committee meeting in March of 2024, when this item was discussed and staff recommended for approval, it was based on two qualifying factors. One was that the policy only allows staff to recommend 5-year declining scale and under. At that time, staff did indicate to this standing committee that the request was for 10 years, and that if there was to be a change made, that direction would need to come from the committee, and there would need to be an amendment to the policy, and the committee determined that we would move forward with 5 years at that particular time. The current policy also does not allow for retroactive payouts as a part of this discussion. Council endorsed a resolution in April of 2024 that would authorize a 5-year declining scale with an agreement between the City of Charlottetown and the Charlottetown Area Development Corporation. So that's just some key highlights within internal, and now I will turn it over to Mr. Arsenault and Mr. Francis.
No, thank you, Mr. Long. So welcome, Mr. Arsenault and Mr. Francis. Go ahead. We'll try to keep a presentation for about 15 minutes max, and then we'll open the floor to some questions.
Okay, well, thank you very much for having us here today. And we're doing this project in partnership and on behalf of the Bio Alliance. We had the original BMI that we developed here several years ago, and now we're working on the new Bio Accelerator building. Our role is really in the construction of these buildings and as a conduit for the funding, and the intent is that these buildings will be at one point turned over to full ownership of the PI BioAlliance. And for all intents and purposes, they already own them as they operate them completely. We don't have anything to do with the day-to-day operations of the buildings. So Rory Francis from the BioAlliance is here, and Rory will walk you through a PowerPoint just on the impact of the bioscience industry on Prince Edward Island and what the impact of these builds will be. So I'll turn it over to Rory Francis.
Thanks very much, Wade, and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks very much for the opportunity. A couple of things here. We want to take the time, without taking too much time, just to give a little bit of an insight into the economic impact of the biosector here in Charlottetown, in Prince Edward Island, primarily in Charlottetown, because that's kind of the underpinning of this conversation. Is the kind of the larger question is the role and how can the city of Charlottetown support what will be in the next few years the largest industry in the province, with Charlottetown being the largest beneficiary. And just looking at that in terms of how can Charlottetown be a partner in advancing what has become a very important industry to the province. So I'll give that context in terms of the economic impact, and then move to the very specific matter here today. So I guess I'm controlling the slides here. So a few kind of key messages, way too many words on the slide probably, but as I said, we're now one of the leading industries in the province. We've been at this for almost 20 years now, from early days to present. The return on investment that the province has received, that our federal counterparts have received in terms of their investments, is really, I would say, unmatched by any other sector in the province in terms of the scale and impact in PEI. Charlottetown, certainly a major beneficiary because most of the activity is here in the Charlottetown area. There have been significant investments by other orders of government in helping create a biosector in a location in a province where this isn't even supposed to be happening. If you're not Toronto, Montreal, or Vancouver, then you're not supposed to be in the game. And I'm here today to say that we're absolutely in the game nationally and internationally. This is still a young industry. It's not long since it kind of didn't exist to any extent, and so there still needs to be investments, public sector investments, which, as I say, are receiving a very good return on those investments, but those are important in terms of enabling growth, and we'll give you a couple of examples momentarily. And bottom line is that we would really appreciate the city finding a way to support a 10-year policy on tax exemption. Probably what we should be asking for is no taxes at all on this kind of enabling infrastructure, and I'll explain why. As a not-for-profit, we try to create the environment for our businesses to be successful, so that any cost to projects like we're talking about here increases the per square foot cost, increases the cost to the leaseholders. That's how these projects work. These are leased spaces to companies that we're trying to bring into the province, companies that are here that are growing, and we have to cover the costs of operating the facilities, lease costs, and so on. So anything we can do to bring those costs down, make us more competitive regionally, nationally, and internationally, because that's our competition. So just to make that point. A couple of things right now. This is 2022. We're just doing a new survey, but we're about $600 million in revenue coming into the province from the companies that are in the sector. About 60 companies, 55 to 60, depending on the month. About 2,200 employees in the sector now. Some of the other results, and we map this every year, but private sector research and development, 27 million, 64 million in investment attraction. Money coming into the province from the private sector to invest in the companies here in PEI. and another $61 million in new facilities and equipment in 2022. This slide shows a bit of the history we've had in terms of revenue growth. We are on track to hitting $1 billion revenue by 2030. I think we'll be there before that. And that will likely make the biosector the largest industry in the province right now. Agriculture, agri-food, which is quite close to my heart, is probably will be number 2 by then. Employment growth, you can see, investment attraction, et cetera. I won't go through all the numbers, but just to indicate kind of slow, steady, now very significant impact that the sector is having in Prince Edward Island. We have really, I think, helped put Charlottetown on the map in terms of being a high-tech location. Again, you know, I was at a session in Halifax yesterday, and mergers and acquisitions, money, people, and just trying to make the point that while lobster and potatoes in Anna Green Gables are very important to our economy, there's a lot more going on here now in various sectors, not just biotech, that is really changing the channel and creating all kinds of new opportunities for our citizens and for our communities. So I think I've stated the other bits and pieces. These are also, I will point out, high-paying jobs. And we are a province where we have the lowest average wage in the country, so we need to do something about that. We need sectors like the biosector to make that difference. The margins are higher, the income stream is higher. This goes back to 2018, so I don't have the data to update that, but you can see, relatively speaking, that the biosector, the wage levels are absolutely one of the highest in the province, the highest other than government on an average basis. So very good for the economy. A couple of things have happened lately that you would have heard of in the news, which are really rather big deals. There have been about 5 that I'm aware of, $1 billion deals in the biosector in Canada this year to date. 2 of those are in Prince Edward Island. And when I'm talking to folks, I have to repeat that because I'm not sure they believe it. 2 of those have happened here in PEI. The Elanco assets purchased by Merck, and that creates another whole opportunity for growth. BioVectra purchased by Agilent, and both of those were over $1 billion in revenue, in cost and benefit to PEI. BioVectra also led the country, the first manufacturing facility to have up and going and ready to go an mRNA vaccine manufacturing facility. The mayor, I believe, was at the ribbon cutting of that last, I think, November or so, and that's a feather in our cap here in PEI as well, because there are other organizations, other companies across Canada that were also funded to do this, funded in part, to do this, create more biomanufacturing capacity for Canada, for the citizens of the country. BioVectra was first. And we've got Castle, another story, but we've taken skills and training in biopharmaceutical manufacturing beyond our own gate, and now we're running skills and training across Canada, Montreal and Vancouver. Penny Walsh-McGuire, the CEO of Castle, was in Vancouver to open a facility there last week. It's a cartoon of cluster companies. Won't go into this, but we have companies from very small, early stage, right through to the larger companies, the Sekisuis, the BioVectras, Elancos, and so on. So what we've been working on for the last 5 years or so is creating more infrastructure. You can't grow this kind of sector without the kind of infrastructure that meets the high regulatory requirements if you're manufacturing drugs, if you're manufacturing health products for any animal health, fish health, high regulatory standards. It's expensive facilities, and yet if we're going to be successful in this sector, we have to have these. So we built a manufacturing incubator, right here, this one, Wade built with others. A manufacturing incubator a few years ago, which is a 20,000 square foot facility. We, the BioAlliance, are carrying about a $4.5 million loan on that one, so that was financed largely by ourselves, just to prove the point, two things, that we could do it, and secondly, the place was overbooked on day one. It's been full, and we have a waiting list for space. So that was our first project, and that's the one that's kind of on the table today as the first example. But as Wade mentioned earlier, this is not just about one project. We need to be talking to you folks about long-term, because this is a long-term proposition. This is Upton Road over, whoops, here, where am I? Upton Road is here, and this is Regis Duffy Drive coming in here. So this corner is where we've just broken ground this week on the BioAccelerator project, a much larger project than the BMI. It's got 2 floors. It's about 60,000 square feet of space. It will be a $60 million project by the time it's completed, and we're well into it. It's a really important project that we've been working on for years, frankly. And I also just point to, again, we're not done. There's another space right there that would allow for another manufacturing incubator. So we need to keep moving along. I would also mention, since I have the opportunity, that the BioCommons is full. We have maybe 1 lot, 2 lots left in there, and we are going to need more space for more facilities. Separate conversation, but certainly very important to the future and to Charlottetown's role in the biosector into the future. So this is just a picture of the BMI as it sits now. The one we're talking about, as I mentioned, 20,000 square feet, and very ably managed by CADC, and we really appreciate their partnership in what we're doing with these facilities. This is the new one. It's a mock-up of what we're now at 66% design, but as I said, we're already moving dirt, getting as much work done before winter as possible. Some stats there on who's inside. We have tenants for most of the space already, and we'll just be moving ahead as quickly as possible with that. So kind of getting around to the point of this discussion, so the biosector right now, based on work done by David Campbell, Jupia, an economist, and looking at the tax benefit from the economic activity of the biosector, we're around $90 million in tax revenue per year coming into PEI from the biosector. That's 2022 data. Roughly speaking, is about 45 million federal, 34 provincial, and $10 million per year to local government from the biosector. And I will say, to date, there has been no investment by the City of Charlottetown that I'm aware of in the biosector's development. So we're at 600 million annual sales, and it's still, we're looking forward to a stronger partnership with the city in terms of building this sector. The specifics of the taxes, I think hopefully these are correct. And I will point out, you folks already know this, that there's really no direct cost to the city in this, in the sense that this is foregone taxes. If we weren't building these things, if we weren't incenting other people to come here, build buildings, you wouldn't be getting any tax revenue from the sector. So we're really enabling, through these facilities in particular, because these models are about companies coming in, they spend a limited amount of time in these facilities, either in wet labs or in manufacturing incubators, and then they move out and build their own facilities. So, and this is not a pipe dream. This has already been happening over the last number of years. And you folks then, the city and the province, get the benefit from property tax, as well as, that's only a small piece, of other taxes that come our way here in Prince Edward Island. So the calculation that we have is that the 5-year taxes on the BMI be around $310,000. We're calculating from kind of day one. So I want to address the matter of retroactivity in a moment. The tax benefit, if we went with a 5-year model, the benefit to us, and I guess cost in a sense to you folks, would be $179,000. Using the 10-year model, it's $417,000. We will still be paying, under 10-year incentive model, we'll still be paying $264,000 in taxes on this first building that we're talking about. My point is that your annual contribution, if you will, on a 10-year model is $41,794. So think about the size of your budgets, think about the tax, $10 million to local government in tax revenue from the biosector, and our ask is $41,000 per year. I think we should be asking for more. We may do that another day, but here we're just talking about this particular tax policy you have, and asking that you consider looking at a 10-year plan that would cost $41,000 a year versus a 5-year, to give us a little more support on what is, again, as I say, a very good return on investment. So that's a request. If we know we need a change in policy and so on, but I think you folks know how to do that or not. But adopting a 10-year policy would certainly be appreciated by the BioAlliance, and the benefit goes back to, I think, the city of Charlottetown and the province, because we're that much more competitive on our prices for lease space and so on. With that, I think that's a summary of where we are. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Francis, for your presentation. Just a question, with Elanco and BioVectra being purchased, is that post-pandemic or pre-pandemic?
That's in the last 4 months.
Recently? By Merck? Merck? By Elanco, okay.
Merck Animal Health. So the Merck deal is closed in July. The CEO of Merck Animal Health was here for that. The Agilent purchase of BioVectra won't close till the end of the year. We don't see any reason why it won't close, but that's the timeline. So it's not quite a done deal yet. There's always the usual legal and other complications, but they'll get through it.
Okay, thank you. And as you pointed out, as you know, we have a policy for the 5-year property tax exemption, and we don't have a 10. It's something that, if it's going to be considered, would have to work on, but we're not able to do that now. But any questions from council, your worship? Councillor Twill?
I'll start it off. Well, thank you, Rory, for your presentation, and the representatives from the Charlottetown Area Development Corporation for being here and playing an instrumental role in the growth and development of BioAlliance here in the city of Charlottetown, province of Prince Edward Island. Rory, you talked about new businesses that are, because of the opportunity to work with your organization, have gone on their own and built. Can you give me a thumbnail sketch in terms of how many new businesses have been built here in the city of Charlottetown? How many employees they employ, and yeah, just a bit of a synopsis on that, if you could. That's my first question.
So of the 55, 56 companies in the cluster right now, half of them were born and bred here in PEI, and half of them are from other parts of Canada or other parts of the world, literally. And so we spend a good bit of time on new business attraction. We're really pleased with the increased number of local entrepreneurs that are seeing opportunities in the biosector and are doing startup companies and so on. So that's, I think, success breeds success to that extent. The companies that we are recruiting are primarily in natural product chemistry-based companies, fish health and nutrition, and animal health. And we're probably the leading location in North America on fish health product development, helping companies commercialize those technologies. Animal health, Kansas City, Missouri is kind of our other competitor. They're much bigger than we are, but that's the only other location in North America that's really focused on animal health. So these are veterinary products that veterinarians use every day. And so those are kind of examples of what we're into there, as well as very, the very important work that companies like BioVectra are doing in mRNA and other biologics. And they manufacture biologics and other drugs for 19 of the largest biopharmaceutical companies in the world. So this is money coming in over the wall from other places that's getting distributed through the economy here.
Second question is, we're talking about bioscience across, BioVectra across Canada, Nova Scotia, a strong representation. If you were to do a comparative analysis, Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island versus Nova Scotia, the rest of the country, where are we at in terms of, growth and development? Where are we at in terms of companies looking to want to come here versus, Halifax or other parts of the country? Like, in terms of competing, like, where are we at in that regard?
So most of, when people that are kind of in the business think about bioscience and life science, the words are kind of interchangeable. In Canada, it would be probably Montreal leading. Quebec has made significant investments and are making significant investments in their sector. They're probably the leader right now. British Columbia, close behind, making a lot of commitments there. Ontario, not so well organized, frankly, but they've got quite a base in Mississauga and area. So those are the leaders. Those are the three leaders. I would say we're in much better position. I was just in Halifax the last couple of days. Halifax has struggled a bit in this area. They've got some very talented people and some good companies and so on, but they have not had the organizational model that's been able to really advance their sector as much. So we have more going on here from a dollar sign standpoint and so on. But our competition, we keep saying, especially for our companies, is not in Canada. The competition is in the world. These have to be global companies on day one. And we do, most of our work is with early stage companies. In fact, you can trace every one of the companies we're talking about here, even the larger ones, the BioVectras. We know Regis Duffy is, original founder and so on of diagnostic chemicals, but Elanco was a startup here in PEI, a little company called Aqua Health. Now it's owned by the third multinational that's bought, and that's over the last 20 years. The next wave of companies, we have companies that are in the $10 to $50 million revenue per year range. These are companies that are going to be the BioVectras of the future. So we play our cards right, support these companies, make sure they have access to brain power, which we're doing, and capital, and facilities. And they will be, the BioVectras of tomorrow. So it's a pipeline. We don't chase big companies around the world and say, why don't you come to PEI? Never have. It's usually, you're usually doing it for the wrong idea. We don't try to incent them being here with a lot of money because, frankly, we don't. Whether I'm talking about the province, we just don't do that. We work with early stage companies that we think have great potential for growth, and we work with them through our incubator programs and so on. So it's a bit of a long game to do, but it's much more sustainable. We don't lose companies. Because of our emphasis on manufacturing, it's really hard to pick up manufacturing facilities and expertise and move those to other parts of the world. It's a sticky industry. If you're only doing R&D stuff, you can kind of pick that up, take the intellectual property and run away. You can't do that if your focus is on manufacturing. And so that's kind of the way we've gone.
If you were to look at BioVectra and what you're doing and, with Bio Alliance. Other industries that are associated with this sector that you've been involved with now for a number of years, what are they doing, for example, that we're not doing in terms of being competitive and creating that incentive to come here to Charlottetown? If you were to, look at it from a full perspective as to say, okay, in an ideal world, if we had the opportunity to bring all those other companies that are interrelated and you expand your horizons from that angle, what are the possibilities that we as a city and yourself and the province and the feds could explore?
The possibilities are endless, and that's such a big difference between the biosector and, unfortunately, if you're talking about agriculture, we run out of real estate. If we're talking about fisheries, we got limits of what you can capture. Even tourism has its limits. This is a brain power business. It's just the imagination and the ingenuity of the entrepreneurs, the companies that are here is what's driving this, and there's no limit to that. And we don't take up that much space, actually. For you got some companies that are earning a lot of millions of dollars, and they're doing it in a space. Some of them are not larger than this room. Others are quite a bit larger. But your point of sectors and other opportunities, I think what we have become very good at is with the help of a lot of people. And I say we, just to be careful, we're talking about companies. Our board is made up of business leaders, the academic and research institutions, so president of UPI, president of Holland College sit on our board, National Research Council sits on our board, investors sit on our board. So we've got people who are working together, and that's been the power of our model, and that's how, to answer your question, that's how we have been successful and can be successful at attracting other associated opportunities, is that everyone is in the same boat rowing together. We have not had in 20 years, we've not been this pulling and tugging between federal and provincial government of whose strategy is this anyway, or the university having a strategy that's different. We've had everyone together, working together, and that's got things done. That alignment makes all the difference in the world. So I think that's I would say thank you to all the partners, because it's that partnership, working together, that's got us where we are.
All right, Your Worship.
Cindy, can you put up the second last slide on the taxes? Rory and Wade, thank you for your presentation. So our 24-25 budget revenue, about $97 million for the city of Charlottetown. So that's provincial grant, property taxes. That makes up about $70 million. Then you get parks and recreation, the Charlottetown water and sewer utility. But our expenses for the 24-25 will be about $102 million. So, of course, because of previous year surplus, we're able to balance that out. And, Rory, if you look at, Cindy, it's the other ones with the provincial and federal taxes. Yeah. So, federal government, $45.9 million. Is that... What tax is that? Is that just the tax, the corporate tax? Is that the consumption tax? Like, I'm just trying to figure that out. Which one is that?
Everything except corporate. Corporate, the economists that did this work did not include corporate income tax on that.
But is that consumption tax? Is that the GST? Okay,
Yes.
because there's no federal property tax, not yet.
Right.
We should be saying that. The provincial tax, $34.2 million. Is that, again, the 10% and the property tax? And
Yep.
does it include a corporate tax?
Yeah, and no corporate.
Okay.
No corporate in there.
So if you look at our local government, 10.1 million, right, that's only property tax. There's no consumption tax, there's no corporate tax,
Yep.
there's no excise tax. So we only have, guys, one tax. It's called the property tax. And what I said to you 46 million from property, then the grant is 20 million, 66 up to $96 million. Then you add the $16 million for the utility. So, Rory, I'm a big supporter of tax incentives. And you know that we worked on this with Wayne to change the policy, because prior to this, the original policy excluded business parks. We amended that to include business parks. So we amended that, and I think at the time Donna Waddell was the interim CAO. So we made that happen. And then the 5-year went in. And Rory, you and I have had these discussions before. I don't know what happened with the previous administration, but this was all news to you that we had a business incentive tax. The city does. Remember I told you, and he said, okay, what's the process to get involved? So I'm a big supporter of it. And if I look at the BioAlliance incubator, for the 5 years, it'll be $180,000 tax forgiveness. Is that correct? That's what I have in my numbers here.
Whatever's on that screen.
Yeah. So
Yes.
we are being pushed all the time to be part of the community. For example, the new School of Medicine, $92 million facility. University's asking city. This is in the city. You have to make a contribution. There's going to be a $79, $80 million renovation to Federation Center. They're asking for an investment. Like, love to do it, but those investments come out of operational. They don't come out of capital, because if we don't own it, we can't capitalize. Now, we've had some exceptions to that, but for the most part. So 5 years, I think that, if I'm wrong, Wayne, if you want to extend that 5 years, at the end of the 5 years, you apply for another 5 years. Is that something we can do?
Through the chair to your worship, any incremental application to the project would have to be just that. It would need to be incremental over the existing property. So you just can't apply for 5 years and then come back and apply for the same property for 5 more. It would need to be incremental and align with the current policy, which we have to work from.
Okay, so if I look at economic development in the budget here, we have the affordable tax incentive, we have the business tax incentive. Under economic, I just found it there. We have 80 Grafton Street, they get a tax incentive, correct? 80 Grafton, which is the Key Murray building on Grafton Street. Do you have that? Okay.
Through the chair, your worship, I don't have
it
the
right here.
budget book in
Our tax
front of me.
incentive program. Canada's Island Garden, Inc., it's a 5-year agreement. That's the Figure plant, correct?
Correct.
Okay. 80 Grafton, 5 years. UP 102296 PEI Inc., 7 Parnell Street, 5-year. And then we have Canada Inc., 141 Kent Street, 10-year. Do we know what's the 141 Kent? Is that the Arts Hotel? No?
I believe, your worship, it's the Tweel building on the corner of Great George and
So
Kennett.
that's the old Sam the Record Man? Mm-hmm. Okay. So we do have a 10-year agreement already in here, correct? That's,
Through the chair, your worship, there is a 10-year agreement, correct? That particular agreement came before this administration and before I inherited the current file, so I don't have those details with me today.
yeah, because it's year 8 of 10. So I think, Rory, like we have to have a discussion about, we've already broken the 5-year limit. Maybe it's something, but again, Rory, I have to make the point, I know it's bringing in the brains, it's bringing in new families, but we only get the one tax if they buy a home. That's all we get. And then we have to scrimp, we have to scratch and look for money anywhere we can find it so that we can, put money out there back into our community. So I get what you're saying. I think we just have to find a way to that, but it's tough, like, you know, the way I look at it, Mr. Chair, as soon as we open the door, others will come knocking. And I know that Wade's laughing there because I'm sure he's got a project in mind that he wants to knock on the door next.
Well, yes, I understand how precedents can be challenging. So let me, you know, with all due respect to the other projects you've mentioned, some extremely important projects, I would argue they're one-offs. They're getting the benefit. This is a whole sectoral development strategy that we're asking you to be part of here. This is not about one building. This is about enabling infrastructure that creates the property tax base that you're looking for. It's not about just giving up money on these taxes and on these properties. It's about creating opportunities to increase your property tax base through the establishment of and the growth of the sector. So you're already getting the money that we're looking for. You've already received the money you're looking for from the companies that have expanded here. It's the property taxes that you're getting from the biosector are very significant, and it's way more than $40,000 a year, and it should be. This is not asking for a handout. This is asking for an investment that's going to pay you back multiples of what we're asking for. And I think that's the whole point here. You don't get that kind of benefit from individual investments in other projects and so on. The other thing I want to mention, because it is a bit of a bone of contention, and that is the retroactivity part, which is very frustrating for me because we did approach the city. And I know you can say, oh, well, that was another administration and so on, but we've gone forward with these projects with some assurance that, oh, well, we could apply, et cetera, et cetera. Well, what we never did receive until earlier, more recent conversations was, what's the map? What's the process here for applying and making sure that we weren't going to have to ask for retroactivity? That wasn't our choice. That was, unfortunately, the city not coming back to us and saying, here is the map, here are the rules, here's how you do it. Never happened. And so we're after the fact saying, what happened to that conversation? Why didn't, you know, we certainly no intention, there was no need for us to be late in applying and having this request for retroactivity. That, we could have avoided that, but there was someone dropped the ball in terms of process, and so, you know, we don't feel we should have to kind of pay that price. And we're really just starting the clock sooner is what we're asking for. We're not asking for more, we're just asking for that retroactivity, because that's already, you know, we're a not-for-profit. That's already baked into our numbers to try to, you know, pay our bills and pay our loans and so on, is an assumption that we would have some benefit and some support from the city on that. So,
Mr. Chair, just to follow up on this, is that all right? Mr. Chair, so again, Rory, it's the conversation you and I had that triggered what's going on right now. What happened before 2018, I don't know. But I know when I was on council in 2000 to 2006, we did have incentive programs that were out in the community. Obviously, it didn't affect, it wasn't part of the industrial park or the business park out in West Royalty, because in the policy, it said you were excluded. We changed that. So if you're asking to make it retroactive, are you going back 2 years? Are you going back 4 years?
2 years. Just going back to when any project, as I understand the policy, any project would be eligible, and that is, it's after completion of the project. It's not, Wade knows this better than I, but it's not, we're not going back anything further. It's simply saying align the benefit with what the policy suggests, which is that when the building is complete, that's when the clock starts on whatever benefit is agreed upon.
And you're saying the building has been completed 2 years. I know I was there for the announcement.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Councillor Twill?
Yeah.
Another follow-up?
Yeah. I want to go back, Rory, maybe at a later date. I'd really like to take, and I know you've explained things here, what's happening at our level, and as far as, you know, what the possibilities are here in Charlottetown. What I would like someday is a comprehensive analysis of this industry and how it interrelates to other sectors across Canada and, as you say, globally. I just don't want to look at tax incentives. I want to look at the whole broad spectrum, so that when we're talking about, 5, 10 years when it comes to tax incentives, I want to look at everything. I want to make it a truly a comprehensive approach to what can be done here in the capital city. And to have other parts of Canada looking at us. I know you mentioned the Montreals and these other places. And yeah, they're bigger, but I think we have a lot to offer here. And to see what it would take to attract some of those industries to come here. So at a later date, is there a possibility that we can have truly a comprehensive study so every member of council can have that report, be able to read it, digest it, our senior staff, and then to see what it would take to work with the other two levels of government to take it to another level. I'm not saying you're not taking it to another level, but I'm talking something that's truly unique that we never really anticipated before. Is that possible, Rory?
Absolutely. I did start with a slide deck that probably had another 20 slides in it, and realized there's no way I was going to be able to present all that today, but be happy to go into depth in any way you want in terms of the sector and a deeper description. This is really just hitting a few top of the waves things today to kind of make the point about the size of the sector, but we can go into the details in the focus areas that we have established. And we're always working within a strategic plan, strategic framework. We can tell you what that involves and what we have to do in order to be successful, to get to that billion, to get to that, and beyond by 2030. So happy to do that anytime.
All right.
Sorry.
Follow up, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Second question. So, Rory, you get 5 years, your budgeted, the city's budget for 5 years at about $180,000. So you're asking to go back 2 and add 3.
Yes, correct. That would be 5. No, I'm asking you to add 10.
Add back
Add
2,
8.
so that would be 7, and add 3 would be 10, right?
Yeah.
I guess that's something, Wayne, you and your team will have to look at if that's something that we can discuss at a meeting to be called soon for economic development. Any comments? Mr. Chair, can I ask him a question? Yeah?
Through the chair, your worship, staff are very much willing to take the direction of the committee. As you know, this is policy and council sets policy, so we'd be more than happy to address the direction of the committee, but we would need some further input from the committee.
Well, I think it would require further discussion, not only with the committee as a Economic Development and Tourism Festival Events Standing Committee, but also members of the staff to find out how we can go. But we do have 5 in now. There's 5 there on the table. But we, as you said, we can't renew it, but we can have to, as I said, we already have it's 141 Kent Street, 8 of 10 years for Canada Inc. So that's we've already crossed that barrier, or crossed that benchmark. And Rory, can we get the presentation that do you have it?
Yes, Cindy has.
So can you email it to us, Cindy? Thanks. Thank you very much.
We'd like to update those numbers as well. We've just completed a survey of our companies for 2023 business year for them, so we'll have some updated numbers that we're
Right.
happy to share
Right.
as well. But
And this tax incentive, Wade, is just on the incubator. It's not on any other, it's just on that new facility that was the open house last year. Any more?
correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
good.
I will say, as much as I know the tax policy is kind of building by building and so on, building permit by building permit, I think I would just ask the committee, think about it from that broader economic development perspective. We know we have to come back down to a specific decision, a specific building, but we have another one, underway now. We're going to have other ones underway, and these are all, we're a not-for-profit on this, and we are enabling more facilities, more buildings that you're going to be benefiting from in terms of the tax base, property tax base. So if you just think about it from that kind of larger picture and why these investments of $40,000 a year, it doesn't feel like a lot to me for the benefit that's coming back to the city, and we want to do more. We want to have, make it that much more positive for the city of Charlottetown. So,
And Mr. Chair, if I could say one thing, this council has been very appreciative of the bioscience by actually honoring Dr. Regis Duffy and his wife Joan with the highest honor that the city gives to any citizen. That is the key to the city. And Regis has been a force to be reckoned with, and he's been still out there at 95 years old. So
still is
proud to be part of that growth and how his vision keeps growing. Thank you very much.
Just one question, Your Worship. You had mentioned the 5 years that's on the table. Is there 2 years retroactive plus 3, or is it 5 years from now request?
I don't think your point earlier, Wayne, was that based on the existing policy, you couldn't go back without making an exception. So what we've been offered is 5 years forward, correct, Wayne? Yeah. But we're asking for it to go back to when the building was completed.
2022.
5 years, but we're asking for that to be spread over 10.
Okay. Thank you very much, Rory and Wade, for your presentation. All the information will be brought back to the committee and for discussion, and it'll be, I'd say it's going to be a lively discussion. So
thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you all.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is, I'm going to say this wrong, but Ayahuasca Canada presentation. Mr. Larkin? Say that again?
Ayahuasca, Canada.
Canada. Thank you. We lost your worship. You have a presentation, right? Where'd he go now?
I don't know, I have no idea. Mr. Jenkins, you go with the mayor?
I can go and look for him.
Yeah, go get him. We have business to finish here.
Could be just a break.
What?
Could be just taking a break.
Right.
I forgot, Deputy, to ask if you had any questions for that last presentation. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm just here to listen.
You never know, something might pop up.
Jamie, are you plugged in?
We're going to see if we can get it plugged in here. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sharing the screen. I think I might hit something earlier.
Trevor. What?
Yeah, I had presentations.
So welcome Jamie Larkin here presenting Ayahuasca, Canada.
Ayahuasca, Canada.
Yeah, so.
Pretty close.
Mr. Long, if you'd like to give a brief background on this and we'll proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I did have an opportunity recently, briefly, to have a conversation with Mr. Larkin with respect to his project. I believe Mr. Larkin will speak to this. I do know that he's had conversation with Charlottetown Police Services, who have directed him on to make a presentation to the Economic Development Committee, given the nature of his request. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Larkin and allow him to speak directly.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jamie Larkin. I would like to thank the chair, your worship, councillors, and the committee for giving me the opportunity to be here today to make this presentation. This meeting, I'm here at the suggestion of the Deputy Police Chief after I had met with him. He thought this was great information to share and an opportunity potentially for the city. I'm here representing Ayahuasca Canada as a regional director and as a member of the CSV, that's the Companionship of the Sacred Vine. Our goal and our ask is to have Charlottetown issue a declaration of support for shaman-led ayahuasca ceremonies. What is ayahuasca? Ayahuasca is a plant-based brew that has been used by Amazonian tribes for spiritual and medicinal purposes for over 3,000 years. It is typically administered in structured ceremonies by an ayahuasca shaman, but it is also administered in health centers and in other settings such as worldwide ayahuasca churches that were established originally in South America, but which now have spread to the majority of countries in the world, including Canada. Traditional ceremonies are now legal and are happening in Canada and have been happening monthly here in Charlottetown for several years. In South American countries, some have officially declared ayahuasca to be part of their cultural heritage. Ayahuasca is widely accepted and is seen as having distinct societal benefits. A large body of scientific knowledge has been generated through numerous studies into ayahuasca, and its safety and effectiveness are well understood. It is safe and it works. Ayahuasca has been used for healing the mind, body, and spirit. Studies show that it has been successful in treating PTSD, anxiety, addictions, enhancing personal growth, reducing suicide ideation, and treating treatment-resistant depression. Why Charlottetown? Well, Charlottetown is uniquely positioned in a way ahead of the curve in Canada, as it has a Peruvian ayahuasca shaman living here and practicing in the city. As well as there are 4 other qualified ayahuasca facilitators. There are distinct advantages to conducting shamanic ceremonies in Canada as opposed to South America. 1, the language barrier. 2, personal safety. 3, the cost, and 4, ease of travel. I've been to the jungle for training, and it takes days to get there. It's a harrowing journey, and everything pretty much kills you in the jungle. Insects, spiders, snakes, fish. Charlottetown is so much safer. Charlottetown would be the first Western jurisdiction in the world to officially support shaman-led ayahuasca ceremonies, making it a unique destination. This uniqueness will attract tourists and professionals interested in spiritual and wellness travel. Both Peru and Brazil are excellent examples of location where ayahuasca tourism has positively impacted local economies which has been positively impacted by the hundreds of thousands of tourists that travel there annually, as it's become recognized as a destination for spiritual and wellness. With Charlottetown issuing a declaration of support for shaman-led ceremonies, a year-round increase in tourism is almost guaranteed, leading to more revenue for local businesses, hotels, restaurants, and service providers. Also, Charlottetown would increase its reputation as being a forward-thinking city. Charlottetown being the first jurisdiction outside of the Amazon to issue such a declaration of support would be seen as a pioneer, taking a bold step towards supporting alternative healing practices. This could position the city as a leader in innovative and progressive health and wellness policies. This would also position the city as a cultural and wellness hub, a hub for cultural exchange and holistic wellness. Supporting shaman-led ceremonies would attract a diverse group of people, including wellness practitioners, spiritual seekers, and cultural enthusiasts. Media attention and global recognition. Increased visibility. A declaration supporting shaman-led ayahuasca ceremonies would be groundbreaking. It would attract significant media coverage from local, national, and international outlets and worldwide podcasts. This visibility would position Charlottetown as a pioneer in supporting alternative and holistic healing practices. Attracting thought leaders and influencers. The city would attract wellness influencers, spiritual leaders, and celebrities interested in alternative medicine, further boosting its profile. Creating a unique narrative. This move would allow Charlottetown to craft a very unique narrative about being open to new ideas, fostering an image of a city that embraces innovation, wellness, and cultural diversity. With the City of Charlottetown issuing a declaration of support for shaman-led ceremonies, we would use this as a catalyst to host a World Forum on Natural Medicines annually. This forum would be a premier global gathering for experts, practitioners, and enthusiasts of natural medicines, including ayahuasca, other plant medicines, herbal remedies, and holistic therapies. Hosting an annual world event would bring consistent, high-profile tourism to Charlottetown, boosting tourism and the economy. Of course, attendees would stay at local hotels, dine in local restaurants, and engage in other tourist activities, creating a predictable boost in the local economy. Establishing a knowledge hub. Over time, Charlottetown would become known as a hub of knowledge for natural and alternative medicine. The city would be recognized globally for fostering discussions on wellness, traditional healing practices, and modern medicine. Long-term benefits. This forum could help build networks and partnerships between local businesses, wellness practitioners, and international communities. It could also inspire local research initiatives. I think it's more than appropriate that a meeting after the bioscience was here, they'd be interested in having a conversation with me. It also could inspire local research initiatives, educational programs, and community projects focused on natural medicine. Reputation as a progressive city. Hosting a World Forum on Natural Medicine annually would cement Charlottetown's reputation as a progressive city. It would show a commitment to exploring and integrating natural medicine into modern healthcare and wellness strategies. Case studies of media attention. Cities such as Iquitos, Peru, and Rhythmia in Costa Rica, which have been featured in major wellness and travel publications worldwide. This media coverage has significantly increased awareness and interest in ayahuasca tourism. Iquitos, for example, has 250,000 visitors per year that travel there to attend ayahuasca ceremonies. That's 250,000 visitors per year to attend ceremonies. To recap, with Charlottetown issuing a declaration of support for shaman-led ceremonies, it puts it on a global map as a forward-thinking city and as a destination for spiritual and wellness tourism. Shaman-led ceremonies are already happening here in the city, with attendees coming from across Canada and as far away as Europe. These attendees include veterans, therapists, and regular people like you and I looking to improve our mind, body, and spiritual health. Ayahuasca is safe and it works. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and we'll open the floor for questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Larkin. Very educational. Mr. Long, has a question?
Mr. Chair, back to Mr. Larkin. Jimmy, can you speak a little bit more about the conversation at Charlottetown Police Services? Like, there seems to me that there's a bit of a protocol here. And in addition to that, I note that Health Canada has offered several jurisdictions special permits in order to advance the use of the product. How does this all work provincially and legislatively? Are you asking for this declaration because you needed to advance through rules and regulations? Can you give some background on that?
Actually, we have the exemption of Section 56 from Health Canada to legally import and serve ayahuasca under the religious freedom through the Companionship of the Sacred Vine. The first organization to get that exemption was the Santa Daime Church. It took them 17 years of lobbying to finally get that to legally import and serve. It took our organization 2 years. Unless you have this exemption, then it's not legal to import or serve ayahuasca. It's included in a broad list of drugs and plant medicines. It does contain DMT. DMT, they call it the spirit molecule, and our bodies produce DMT when we dream, when we meditate. It's a natural substance. And ayahuasca itself is a combination of two plants that make DMT. One plant produces the DMT, and the other one releases the SSRI inhibitors, which allow the DMT to work very slowly. I met with Sean Combs, the Deputy Police Chief, to bring this to his attention. In other jurisdictions around the world, some shamans have been arrested. So we strongly believe this adds a net benefit to the community, and it's very beneficial. It's a very powerful medicine that's been used by millions of people. There's hundreds of research documents. There's dozens of universities currently doing research and have been doing research on ayahuasca for decades. So part of what we're doing here today and what we did with the Deputy Police Chief was start an education and a conversation about exactly what is ayahuasca. And not unlike everyone here, it took me more than one try to get the pronunciation right. So and you try and spell it for a couple of times too. So, but it's all about education. It's a very powerful medicine that works and it's safe. And again, many communities across our country and across North America are it's a very tough time for many people. The housing crisis, unemployment, insecurity, addictions. Everyone's under a lot of stress. And this is a powerful medicine that, again, helps deal with that stress. And one of the questions I had to the Deputy Police Chief was to see if it was on his radar at all, which it wasn't. We have freedom of information requests from different police organizations across the country. It's not on their radar. They've had no arrests on their records. So this is a very positive thing which is happening already in the community. And we want to be in a position to share it with people. And again, the City of Charlottetown has offered, I'm sure, declarations of support for other organizations that it's a very positive thing and encourages people to celebrate. It brings the community together and encourages people to come to Charlottetown because it is a progressive city.
Chair?
Your Worship.
Jamie, thank you very much for the presentation. Jamie, just a clarification, ayahuasca. Then you talked about is it Shamala or
Shaman, yeah, shaman.
But is that the CT? What's this?
CT, that's short for Charlottetown.
Thank you. Okay. So the Shamala ceremonies is part of the healing process? I'm just trying to get an understanding.
Yeah. So ayahuasca is served in a ceremony setting, which is very organized, and it takes special dietary preparation to prepare for ceremony, and it's led by a shaman and facilitators, trained facilitators. The ceremony lasts over several hours. Generally, there's anywhere from 5 to 15 people that attend.
Yeah. So, again, there's the Peruvian. There's a connection to Peru as the base for it.
Yes, yeah. So our shaman, he's trained in Peru. He's received over 10 years of training. It's been practicing for many years. So we're in the lineage of Peruvian shamans, and we travel down to Central and South America for ongoing training.
Right. And I laugh because just several months ago, we had a representative from Chincha, Peru, and he wants to set up a twinning of cities with Chincha
Well, that's
in
interesting.
Charlottetown.
Yes.
Yes. So I don't know if there's a connection there, but it's sort of, it's coming all here at once. And if you look at provincial responsibility, the provincial, like constitutionally, it's in the Constitution Act of 1981, provinces are responsible for two constitutional responsibilities, health and education. Now, I think, did you allude to already reaching out to the province, the provincial minister of health?
I haven't yet. I'm just kind of working my way up, and so this seemed to be the next obvious step. Of course, I'm a huge fan of Charlottetown, and as the logo says, great things happen here.
Yeah.
And we're better than the birthplace of Confederation to issue a declaration of support. And again, this is really it's a promotional opportunity to help brand the city and increase its awareness around the world as a destination of wellness and tourism. And but the province is the next step for sure.
Right. And I might have not heard you say, but are there other jurisdictions that have already declared ayahuasca as?
Not outside the Amazon, no.
Okay.
So this would be the very first.
Very
one.
first.
And it just happens to be a lot of things seem to be lining up. The stars are lining up that we have a Peruvian ayahuasca shaman here with trained facilitators. He would be here today, but he's a little bit shy. So, so he likes to stay low key.
Well, he sent the best representative.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Twill, question?
Jamie, I want to congratulate you on your initiative and bringing this forward. I still have a lot to learn. This is all new to me, and I know that you're very invested. You started talking about, I was listening there when you were talking about your experience in the jungle. Did you experience any snakes and alligators and giraffes?
I stayed out of the water.
Because every day I venture into the jungle, a different jungle.
that's right,
But I like to
believe
draw the analogy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But no, look, Jamie, on a serious note, I think this is fantastic. I really do. I have a lot to learn
And
about what you're proposing and how this is internationally acclaimed and for you to approach the city of Charlottetown, that's very noble of you. I congratulate you. I'm not sure exactly where you're asking for a declaration. I'd like to see, from our staff. The declaration is one thing, but where does it go from there? You talked about tourism and marketing and what it could mean for the city.
Yeah, in a World Forum on Natural Medicines. Several years ago, I met with businessmen that go to the World Economic Forum in Davos, and I asked them some advice.
Did you say the World Economic Forum?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they suggested a couple of things, and the presenters from the BioAlliance here, they talked about part of that too. And one was, tax incentives or special economic zones, and the other part was, he strongly suggested that we develop a World Forum similar to what Davos is sort of branded as having the World Economic Forum there.
Yeah.
And what I would like to see is use this declaration of support as a catalyst to have a World Forum here on natural medicines, and bring the best of the world here. We're in conversations with Gabor Mete's team. He's been working. Dr. Gabor Mete, he's based out of Vancouver. He's been using ayahuasca ceremonies in conjunction with the treatment for people with the most severe addictions in the country. So again, it's all about increasing knowledge and looking for better solutions to some very severe problems.
No, that's great, Jamie. So I know there's going to be further discussions with our senior staff, Wayne and Laura Lee, and then Michael, our director. So we'll look forward to, to see how we can participate from from an initial perspective. And then, I guess, as you know, the sky's the limit.
And speaking of participating, I extended this to Sean's team as well, the Deputy Police's team, but I want to extend to everyone here, you're always more than welcome to attend the ceremony to exactly see what it is and what we do. There is some diet prep and a very thorough questionnaire that we have to go through to make sure that it's suitable.
Thanks again, Jamie.
Okay.
Just to
you,
follow
Your
up, just a quick
Yeah, go
end. Yeah. Again, Jamie, thank you very much. So there would be a ceremony to recognize or to acknowledge this ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And would there be members of the community, Peruvian community, part of that, or just? Or
We
do you-
hope so, yeah. If we have the shamans here in the province, and we'll have him attend. And of course, he wears ceremonial garb during ceremony. And one of the things I didn't bring in today, but I brought in when I met with Wayne, was a lot of the Shipibo crafts and tapestries and jewelry, bracelets, necklaces. And it's one of the things, again, it's part of education and learning more about other cultures. And what beautiful craftsmen and artisans they are. So it would be great to have that there too.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Deputy, any questions? No? All right. No, thank you very much, Mr. Larkin.
Thank you, Jamie.
Very interesting.
Thanks, everyone.
Yes. We'll take it back to committee for discussion again. Right.
Always available for more questions.
Axel Rose would say,
Welcome to the jungle, that's right. And I'll provide more documentation if you guys need anything. Okay,
Okay.
thanks much.
Thanks, Jamie.
Yeah. Jamie, next time you go down, take Councillor Tweel down. Huh? Get all those spiders and stuff. I'd say there'd be
you know
some
what?
monkeys there,
There's
too.
something we can hunt together, Jamie, if you know what I mean.
You're not going to find a giraffe, though, Councillor Twill. Moving on, 6C, 2025 Downtown Farmers Market notification. Mr. Long. Sorry, my apologies. Laurel.
Mr. Chair, just a point of order. I looked in our package. We didn't have any backgrounder for this presentation. Was this a last-minute add-on? I just looked through my package. The ayahuasca presentation.
There was no presentation other than what he presented here today, so we didn't receive anything in advance, Your Worship.
Oh, okay.
Normally with presentations, there isn't an item in the package. The only reason there was something related to the bioscience
Yeah,
CDC presentation because
that's
it was a
what I'm
previous report. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Normally
again-
what would happen is the presentation would occur and then staff would come back with a report to the next meeting.
Okay, so there will be a report from the presentation made by Rory and Wade, and same with ayahuasca. We'll have a report on that too.
Correct.
Thank you.
So with the ayahuasca, yeah, you know what I mean. If it's illegal in Canada, how can we pass it to have it legal here? Is that a question for the police services?
I think that's a question they'll have to deal with in their report.
Mr. Chair, we would have to do some more research on this. Mr. Larkin indicated he referenced a part of I believe, the Canadian Health Act or something similar to that of where they're covered off, but we would certainly have to do some more research on our end and also determine why there are not other jurisdictions in Canada, especially municipalities, who have endorsed, and we perhaps also might need a conversation with the provincial government.
Thank you. Turn the mic over to Laurel.
So in late August, staff received formal notification from Downtown Charlottetown Inc. that following the 2024 market season, which ends on September 29th, that they will no longer be involved in the operation, management, and oversight of the Downtown Farmers Market. And I did include that official correspondence in your package if you haven't had a chance to review it yet. They did this year engage a market manager, Mark Carrollet, who was involved in Diversity as well, and he's been working with the vendors every week since the market began, and they are discussing transferring the market to him for future years, so he would operate it instead of Downtown Charlottetown Inc. And we do know that in speaking with Mr. Carrollet, he has been having detailed conversations with the vendors on site over the past several weeks and will continue to do so for the next couple of weeks. And he's going to basically be compiling that feedback, and that feedback is what's going to inform his decision-making for any future editions of the market. So there's no action required of the committee today. We did just want to notify you that there will be a change in ownership and operation of the market in future years, given DCI has decided to take a step back. Councillor Tweel, if it's okay with the chair, I believe that Mike will be able to answer your previous question from the beginning of the meeting with respect to where the report is at.
Just, Laurel, a question for you before we go to that one. Is DCI able to just hand it over to another individual or a corporation, or do they have to get permits changed, licenses changed, business plan, anything? They can just hand it over to somebody else to operate?
It's my understanding that it's their product to do with as they wish. So the procedure to have the market approved every year would remain the same regardless of who the operator is. So if Mark Carrollet is to take over the market, he'll need to come back to the city and go through the Event Logistics Committee to discuss what the operation looks like for 2025 and moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Mike?
So just in regards to the infrastructure review for Queen Street, staff have been meeting over the past while in discussions on how we can enable more efficient shutdown of that street to accommodate events, and considering all the capacity that is needed on that street, electrical and other. So we anticipate a comprehensive report coming before committee and council in the, this fall. So we're shooting for October, but it'll depend on how council wants to proceed in, through which committee that would go through.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Yeah, I do have a question. So, Michael, could you give me a breakdown of who's actually participating in the report? I assume fire chief, obviously, police chief, public works or engineers. There would be probably 4 or 5 internal senior management members of a steering committee that are involved with that report. Am I correct in saying that? And is there any other involvement? Obviously, I think you're involved as well as a director. Is there anyone else in the city's corporation that's participating on that particular, I guess you call it an ad hoc committee?
Through the chair, that's correct, Councillor Tweel. It's a multidisciplinary approach because there are a bunch of different departments that need to weigh in to make sure that the infrastructure is there to support events on Queen Street. So fire, police, public works, as you mentioned. Richard McEwen, myself, and our economic development and tourism teams are closely involved in that as well.
And that report will also include costs. For example, if there's infrastructure or any type of amenities that are required, it'll be comprehensive. That was what you said, and that will give us a total breakdown as we lead into the budget for 2025.
Again, through the chair, that's correct, Councillor Twill. Our intent is to have some cost estimates, again, high-level cost estimates. There will likely be for some further detailed design required, depending on what council wants to proceed with, and we can kind of go from there.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Chair?
Your Worship.
Okay. DCI was operating this since 2010 with a lot of assistance from the city. Now they've decided to cease operation, and they can just hand it over to any, and I'm not saying Mark Carr-Rolette is any project manager. He's a great guy, but if I look at Windsor, Ontario, 300,000 residents, they have a downtown farmers market. They shut down two streets. I spoke to the administrator that's responsible for the market in Windsor, Ontario, and I said, well, we have to close ours down. We can't have it on a main street because of fire, police, and so forth. So I linked that to Farm Day in the City, and I brought this up yesterday at the Standing Committee for Protection and Emergency Services. So we're going to have Farm Day in the City on Queen Street. So what does that mean? Does that mean extra police, extra fire, extra barricades? Can I find out what that means on Farm Day in the City? And I answer that, if I can get an answer for that, I just want to add another couple of questions.
Through the chair, Your Worship, can you clarify exactly what you mean by that?
Okay,
because
so-
I believe that we discussed months ago that the main concern with emergency services, if you're comparing the weekly downtown farmers market to a one-off event
Right.
like the Farm Day in the
Right.
City, is the frequency. The frequency is the problem.
One day, whether it's 1 day or 13 days, one day a fire could happen on Queen Street. One day a mad driver could going south in Queen, run through those barricades. What extra precautions are we taking to allow Farm Day in the City? Because it was identified by police and fire that, and I believe our public works manager that they would have to look at these huge concrete barriers to prevent any driving right through. So what are the extra requirements and what's the extra cost? Do we know that?
So there's no extra cost to the corporation for Farm Day in the City.
Right.
The emergency services team that reviewed the application for Farm Day in the City did indicate that they would be continuing with the road blockades that they've used for the past number of years. The fire department has been working with Discover Charlottetown on a more robust plan for site evacuation if it was required. So the costs to do that are primarily around, they're doing breezer flags that have exit signs on them. So if you're somewhere on the street, it's easier to determine where you would exit from in a crowd. Those costs are being absorbed through Discover Charlottetown. They're minimal. We also agreed through our department to split them, as we'll have other events that will have access to that infrastructure as well. The plan has always been that as we work through the report that Mike is leading right now, there will need to be more robust road closure infrastructure at some point if we're going to continue holding events on that portion of the street.
Yep, good. Okay. So, so Discover Charlottetown is picking up the extra cost for, I think when we're talking about this, fire said they'd have to have an additional firefighters on site available to react to anything that could happen down there. Police, I think we're looking at, it could require extra police services. Public Works said they needed the barriers there to ensure that no one could drive through. So those extra costs, they'd be maybe a couple thousand, several $1,000s. So Discover Charlottetown is going to incur those costs?
The costs would be no more than they would have been in previous years.
Oh.
So
Previous years when we had the farmers
when
market?
we had Farm Day in the city, the one-day cost. So that's what Emergency Services had tried to explain earlier in the spring, was that if we're putting extra police or extra fire in the enclosure, doing that one day versus doing it 13 or 14 days is a difference in cost. So
Of
doing
course it
it
is.
one
It's
day for
13
Farm Day.
times one
Exactly.
day. Oh, I understand that. I know that's arithmetic, just times 13 by 1, whatever cost it per day. But again, if a large municipality like Windsor, Ontario can hold a farmer's market in the downtown, 2 blocks shut off, then I don't know why we can't do it if it means extra cost for fire, extra cost for police, extra, and to identify, like we're learning something here, Mr. Chair, emergency exits, if something does happen, okay, you go down Victoria Row, or you cut across to Richmond by the soup kitchen. These are all emergency exit plans are a very good idea, and I'm sure there's other things that we can learn by reaching out to other municipalities that are doing farmers markets in their downtown. So, I know that what we're doing down at the, Mr. Chair, what we're doing down at the
Waterfront.
Confederation Landing, I've been down there over the past several Sundays. There's differences of opinions. It may take a little time to work, but you know what? I'd like to have an option, and an option is something that we should be looking into. I know that Councillor Bernard showed me a photo from last year's Farm Day in the city. There was, I think, 2 cruise ships in, and there must have been 10,000 people on that street. Whereas our Farm Day in the city, our farmer's market, you might have 1,000 or less or more, 1,000 to 1,500. It's just, Laurel, I think, Laurel, we're just looking at ways of providing options. And to get back to DCI, should the city not be a partner with, whether it's Mark Carolette or whoever, that we are part of making this happen? And I think if we have, Mr. Chair, if we have to find additional funding, that we find that funding to make it work. So because it is a fabric of our downtown every Sunday, whether it's downtown Queen Street or it's on the waterfront at the Confederation Landing Park. Laurel, can you answer that?
As was outlined in the letter that's attached to the report, DCI has requested that the city continue to partner with the new owner and operator of the market. So that, yes, that request has been made.
Yeah. So again, Mark right now, if you go down there on a Sunday, Mark has 3 employees from, I think, DCI. They're young people that work with him. Next year, those employees will not be with him. So we have to look at the plan going forward. Mark will need resources to assist what he's doing, whether it's Mark or someone else. So again, and if we're doing that, let's look at ways of options. What do we have to increase? Policing, fire, public works, parks and recreation, all those things that are required or necessary to make it work. And again, Councillor Tweel, I know you're talking to a lot of the vendors down there. They've shared their views that, it works, doesn't work, but it could be said about Queen Street too. Like, some liked it, some didn't like it. What we want to do is just find a solution so that next year we can start afresh and hopefully have something that's robust and ready to go.
Yes, and Your Worship, I believe that your question will be fully answered over the course of the fall. I think that the options that you're referring to will be answered through the work that is being done through many different departments on Queen Street and what the costs associated with staging events there will be. But also during the budget process, the request for the market will come back, and if there is a request from Mr. Carolette to have the city supplement the lost staff or provide any other services, that will be reviewed when we review the budget. If there's going to be a staffing request, obviously we will need more bodies if we're going to respond to that. So it's hypothetical at this point because we're not certain what the ask will be. We can have a conversation, but it would be more prudent to have the conversation once we have all of the information in front of us.
No, and I agree. I agree. But I know this has been working for 14 years. My son worked with DCI. One summer, that's what he did every Sunday. He worked with several other employees. There's a lot of work in setting up. So Mark Kerr can't do it on his own. He will need assistance. So who provides that financial assistance to get those assistants to work with them? I just want to make sure that we have some options and that we can say we're going here, we're going there, and come summer of 2025, Mr. Chair, we'll be ready to go. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I understand as well, talking to those staff, it's a lot extra work hauling their equipment from Lower Queen Street over to where it's set up now than it is going up Queen Street. Just another issue for those young staff that are hauling the tables and barricades and stuff up there. Personally, I would like to see it come back to Queen Street. I know there's going to be costs involved. Was there there was a resolution that we had council passed to have the market go down to the farm market? So it's going to have to be another resolution come back to council to make these changes. Okay. There will be a resolution coming back. So will it be part of just Mark, or is it going to be Mark and the city?
The request would come from the owner and operator of the market. So if Mark comes forward with a request to consider moving the market back to Queen Street, then that will be reviewed by staff and by council. If it's to remain in Confederation Landing, another resolution would be required, as I believe we only granted them permission for this year.
Okay. And one more thing, Firm Day in the city, what about Christmas in the city that happens in November? Is that still planning to go ahead for the full weekend?
Yes.
As it has in the past? But yet we can't have a market here 13 Sundays. Okay. Anything else, anybody?
Yeah, right here.
Councillor Twill.
Well, you can, but council made a decision to move it down to Confederation Landing. Council made that decision. So I don't know if council makes a decision Farm Day in the city or Victorian Christmas. Do we pass resolutions in that regard?
We do not. Typically, you wouldn't have passed a resolution with respect to the farmers market either, but because it was outside of a typical request for Confederation Landing, that resolution went through council.
Okay. The idea of DCI transferring to Mark, and I know Mark's a pretty good fellow. He does a great job with, diverse city. I really believe that the committee, maybe I think we need to go back maybe to a joint meeting of Parks and Rec and Economic Development. And I think we also need to hear from the vendors as well. I'm down there as well. You hear pros and cons of the current setup. It's the vendors, they drive the bus. They're the ones that make it happen. And I think it'd be advantageous and beneficial for us to hear from them as well, because we're going to hear from them anyway, right? We're talking to them, so it's nice to have those discussions there, but I think we need to have it in a setting where we, as elected officials and senior staff, can hear from them directly. They want to talk to us directly, right? So I like to make the recommendation that once the season's over, we need to hear from them and we need to have a debriefing session from them, because we will learn a lot more as well. I just wanted to bring that recommendation forward.
Mr. Chair, we had that meeting before we made the move. And as part of the debriefing, I think that those vendors, shoppers, residents of Charlottetown, we can invite them back to council for a special meeting of council to get that input. So it's to all of council. That's what we want to do. And then hopefully by then, maybe not by then, but it would be great if we could have something ready by the end of this season that would be as part of going forward for 25-26 budget year.
Yeah, so my understanding from the current market manager who will be taking over the market is that he's currently conducting all of those conversations. The city does not own the market. They're not our vendors. So he has been conducting one-on-one conversations with those vendors and is intending to compile that feedback. We can request a copy of that feedback, but that feedback is what's going to inform the decision-making process for the market from Mark's perspective. So it will be Mark coming forward with a request to the city. I do think we need to be careful about how much we overstep because it's not our event. We are a partner in the event, but we don't own it, we don't operate it. So it may be, if council does want to hear from vendors directly, perhaps the first step is to ask for a report of what that feedback is. That can be reviewed, and then we can determine next steps.
No, Mark has already, I think, indicated that into an email response to you, and I don't know if Councillor Tweel was on it, but he's already indicated that he's doing surveys now and getting feedback. Oh, we will definitely appreciate that feedback. But again, we can open the doors with Mark here to the vendors and anyone that wants to come and just give their not business experience and their experience going down there. I enjoyed going down there because it's got the green space, it's got the water, it's a great spot. But maybe it's not good for business. We can find out. But yeah, no, we're not going ahead of Mark. We will wait for Mark's survey. That's what I would prefer to do. And hopefully, if Michael can have some kind of a report ready to look at the future, that'd be ideal to have as part of our package.
All right, thank you. You're lit up there. You have questions?
Oh, yeah. No, I'll just reiterate. Once that process is done with Mark and the vendors, again, I do think we need to have that discussion because they are going to contact us directly by email, by phone. We're going to run into them. So let's have a collectivity. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Laura Lee. One more on the agenda, 6D, 2024 Parking Forgiveness Program for the months of October and December for the City of Charlottetown. Mr. Long?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Our partners at Downtown Charlottetown, Inc. are requesting a repeat of the Parking Forgiveness Program of which happened last season. The mayor is well aware of this program and had some discussions with the organization coming through the pandemic. There was a similar program that was done in Halifax with good results. This would apply solely to the BIA, to the downtown area, which is essentially the boundary encompasses 16 blocks from historic downtown Charlottetown, stretching from Prince Street to Pownell Street, from Euston to the historic waterfront. It's a program that is aimed at stimulating economic growth for those who spend a minimum of $35 before tax and spend it in a downtown business and can have their parking ticket forgiven. The request is, as the chair indicated, for the months of October and December. October, as you well know, is not that far away. So given the committee's support here today, there will be a special meeting of Emergency and Protective Services Committee tomorrow, and then on to a special meeting of council next week that will allow everything to align for the October rollout. Staff just received the request from DCI yesterday, and this is a great partnership. It worked well last year. There was good feedback. It doesn't really come with a large price tag to the municipality. If you look under the financial impacts, there was a loss of about $870 in parking revenue to the municipality. The spend on downtown businesses obviously outweighed that. And Downtown Charlottetown Inc. Will be leading the marketing campaign again, and our communications team will supplement that by sharing their posts, et cetera. So this is a great project for the downtown. Congratulations again to DCI for executing and bringing it forward, and we're recommending to the committee that we approve and move on to Emergency and Protective Services Committee and then to special meeting of council next week.
Thank you, Mr. Long. That's one loss that I actually wouldn't mind seeing growing bigger this year. So hopefully people take advantage of coming downtown and doing some shopping. Any questions, Council?
Yeah. What mechanism will be put in place to deter downtown employees from parking in those parking spots? Wayne, I know, look, we've tried this a number of years, long ago. I think it's a great concept. I support it. The last thing we want to see is, I don't want to be critical, but if it's going to be truly to attract people to come downtown to shop or seek professional services, then those parking spaces have to be freed up, and we have to have a mechanism where there's daily and consistent checks and balances, and there's consistency. So can you help me with that?
Through the chair to Councillor Tweel. Councillor Tweel, your point is well taken. The difference between this initiative and a no parking fee is that this is not no parking rates. This is a parking forgiveness program. So if you receive a ticket, you have a certain period of time to take that ticket to the police department with a receipt where you spent a minimum of $35 at a downtown business in order to have your ticket forgiven. So it's not like we're waiving parking fees for the months of October and December. It's a parking forgiveness program. So therefore, parking spaces will not be taken up by others as you suggested when it is a free program.
Right, but does that mean it's open to everyone? For example, people that work downtown, are they able to, if I'm an employee, say I'm working at Dow's Menswear, for example, can I take advantage of that as well? So it's open, it's all inclusive, it's open to everyone.
Through the chair, Councillor, that is correct. Anyone can take their parking ticket as long as they have a receipt to show where they had to spend in the downtown within a particular period of time. But if you look at the results from last year, if you look at the impact, there was only 87 tickets that were forgiven. We're not talking hundreds or thousands of tickets here either.
Mr.
And
Chair.
also, sorry, they have to be checked and balanced within a 3-hour period. So if you get your ticket, your receipt from a merchant has to be within 3 hours, and they have 5 days to go to the police station and turn it in to get that forgiveness.
All right.
No. Wayne, this replaces that experiment that we tried back in early 2000, 1 month of free parking in December. All that did was put workers, staff in front of the shops. And this is totally opposite to it. And is just as the chair said, it has to be within 3 hours of, it can't be, a ticket from 2 weeks ago. Here, I've got this receipt 2 weeks ago. Can you take? No, there's a methodology. Look, it's working in Halifax. It's working here. Great on DCI, but you know what? For $800, and when you look at the budget for, I like this, police, parking, court fines, and provincial funding, $3 million. So if that parking fines, it might be $400,000, might be $800. Good deal. I move it. Can we move that resolution? I want to move it.
I was hoping we could move a lot of things. Anyway.
Is there a resolution? Yeah.
Is there you want a resolution, Wayne?
Mr. Chair, yeah, this committee would make a resolution to advance it to Emergency Protective Services Committee because they do the collection. This committee has the authority to recommend that we enter into an agreement with respect to the parking forgiveness program because parking rates fall to the Economic Development Committee and special initiatives such as this. We want our good friends at police to be on side, and then it'll advance to council next week.
It's fine.
So it's moved by your worship.
Just one point,
One more
Mr. Clay. Mr. Chair. We can't just pass it? Do we need? I'd like to have this on the agenda for Tuesday.
Mr. Chair, this particular item is set to be on the agenda for Tuesday. There will be a special meeting of police tomorrow.
The police commissioners agreed to it? Okay.
Yes, and we're just following protocol, which happened last year, and
Someone's phone's ringing?
the reason for police being involved is given that tickets need to be taken to the station and their staff have to be prepared and agree to the process, so staff were just following the protocol that was later in the previous year.
And Wayne, again, you guys do a great job down there in economic development, tourism, festival events, but are we going to promote it on our social media portals, platforms, that this is going, DCI is going to do the same thing? We're going to get it out there? Great.
Through the chair, your worship, that is correct, and I'm assuming you took great note of all the recent accolades on Charlottetown. So, yes, the
never saw them,
BIA
Wayne.
will be leading the campaign, and our communications team will supplement that and share all of their posts.
Never see those accolades there, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Just a question. It's not on the agenda. Maybe it can be for future. Is this,
We under new business then?
yeah, it'd be on
New business, I'll go there, sir.
Yeah. Is this department, whether it be yourself, Wayne, or Laura Lee, are you folks involved in any which way, shape, or form in the whole issue with Victoria Row and working with the downtown business community? and
Councillor
work-
Tweel, that's not on the agenda, and I'm not.
No, I'm
gonna-
just
we're
asking the
not going to go
question.
there today with.
No, I'm
this.
just, can I
No.
put that under new business?
We can bring it on the agenda, but we're not going down that path today.
I'm not asking to get down that path, but I just asked a simple question. Is this department involved?
Mr. Chair, through to Councillor Tweel, there are a number of city departments who are involved in the process and in communication with the partners, correct?
So,
Business, it's a notice of motion there, correct, Mr. Chair? Yeah, okay, move that
It's
notice
a
of
notice
motion.
of motion for the agenda for
Yeah.
future agenda?
Yeah.
Is that what you're looking for?
Move to
Mr.
adjourn,
yeah,
move to
Yeah.
adjourn, yeah.
Move to adjourn?
yeah,
Second?
Thank you,
because, I
sir.
mean, well, I'm
confused
just
here.
looking for information.
Yeah,
all.
so we'll put it on the agenda for future agenda.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, keep
adjourned.
items on social media.